You could define my taste in 5 words. Fun, epic, adventure, existential, tragedy. I don't know if I can do this. Can I put him here? This feels a bit wrong.
Jesus Christ, that was a bad idea.
It's been about a century since we've last seen each other, and I've arrived here today to tell you about my 10 favourite books and authors as of 2025. A year and a half ago, I made a list of my top 5 favourite standalones, book series, and authors, and I said this is a list I want to repeat and kind of update every single year since, even in 10 years or 15 years or 50 years when I'm not doing YouTube anymore, I still want to come back and complete the list and see, you know, how my tastes change and etc. It's been a year and a half. I didn't do one in 2024, and I've not made a video in, I think, 11 months. But I think that is exactly the reason why this is the perfect video for me to make on my return. For a bit of context, I lost my camera when I moved on my own. Hi, you're looking at my apartment or one little corner of my flat. I think that's all the context you need. I lost my camera, then I found it, and now we're here. And I've come back. For how long? I don't know, but do stick around, and let's move on to the list, because that is what you're here for if you're here for anything. I've almost forgot to tell you, I have updated the rules of their lists, because I could not make individual lists for serious and non-serious. So this is just top 10 stories. We're going to start with my number 1, because why would we start at the bottom? We're going to start at the very top. I think this was my top of my favourite series. I have not rewatched that video, so if you want to know what I thought, check the video out. But as of right now, as of today, my favourite written story in all of existence is The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, and this is a mammoth of a book, which is why I'm not going to be holding it for the rest of the video. I read The Hobbit and The Silmarillion, or reread both of those books this year, and I can't wait to reread The Lord of the Rings again, this time the actual written words, because those words are beautiful. It was a year or so ago when I, for the first time, listened to the Andy Serkis narrations, which made this story alive like it's never been. And I've always loved The Lord of the Rings, obviously. It's been a big part of my life. But I think I grew to appreciate the emotional depth of it. Like I've never done with the written book. Obviously with their film adaptation, I always cry. You can't watch The Lord of the Rings without crying like a million times. But it was the first time that I've actually wept whilst reading or listening to The Lord of the Rings. And like I said, it gave me a new appreciation for the story, because obviously J.R.R. Tolkien is a masterful world builder, but it's not just a great narrative. It is a great study of human character, and it doesn't just have thematic depth and philosophical depth, and it's not just that the written word is masterfully crafted. What the fuck am I trying to say? I can't speak of books. I'm trying to tell you that it's got many depths, one of which is the emotional depth of it, and that is built. I'm not trying to give you an analysis, but for me that is built through the characters, and not just obviously our main characters, not just Sam and Aragorn and my favourite Faramir, but through the small people, through the mentioned and unnamed, through the characters we don't like, because they're also humane, and this is such a fucking humane narrative. And I could yab about this for all time, but I think that is like, for now, the main reason why this is my favourite story ever told, is because every time I reread it, every time I re-experience it, I realise something more, something I've not realised at that level before. Today this is not at least in my top 3 of written work, of any work of art. You should start questioning, who is this alien, who is this artificial intelligence copy of Annie, because it certainly isn't Annie, because this book It's more than a part of me. It's a fundamental piece of who I am. I think I can move on to my top 2. My books fell, and I don't even know when that happened. My second favourite book is, I was going to say also a trilogy. Technically, Lord of the Rings isn't a trilogy, it's a single book published in 3 volumes. But yeah, this next one is a trilogy. It is a book series. My favourite book from this series is the second book. I'm going to hold the first book, which is the only one that I own. My second favourite story of all time, which I really need to reread this, but I'm not emotionally prepared to do that yet, because the story is the Beartown trilogy by Fredrik Backman. Yes, I'm holding the Swedish copy. Have I read it? No. Will I read it? Hopefully one day. Men jag kan säga jag lite prata om svenska. Jag är finska och jag måste prata om svenska, men jag kan inte. I think that says it all. I have not sobbed my eyes out reading any other books except every book in this trilogy. But the way Fredrik Backman writes about human beings, writes about ordinary lives at their best and at their worst and at everywhere in between, it's unparalleled. I have not felt the weight of humanity, the weight of my life and the life of people around me, the real lives of people, quite like I have with this series. It's about a hockey town. It's a small town in the middle of northern Sweden, in the middle of a forest. And it's about all the people living there, trying to get through every day of their lives with one looming figure hanging over them. Hockey. And that's not just what it's about, but that's basically the gist of what it's about. It's about the people in this town and what obsession, in a lot of ways, obsession with this one thing that is greater than, the rest of us, or anything that we put on a pedestal as defining factor, or as something through which we defined ourselves. I'm not going to start yapping about this book, but it's I'm going to start crying soon, because that is just Fredrik Backman. My favourite standalone book of all time is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Is it the best written book of all time? No. Do I even think, for me, it is the best written book of all time? No. There are things I don't agree with how this was written. It doesn't matter. It is my favourite. I can't actually say why I love this so much. This is about a group of students at a conservatory, drama students, 3rd-year students. What happens to their friend group and how someone ends up dead, and how our main character ends up in prison 10 years afterwards, or like he's being released from prison. I'm not good at. I should learn to actually describe books, because I'm doing quite a rubbish job at the minute. This is one of the dark academia books, and The Secret History is like my Bible, as in, just like the Bible, I've been reading it for years without ever finishing it. I do think the Secret History might be better written. I don't think even when I finish it, it's gonna overtake this, because this has quite a few key elements that make this book like me. Make this book for me more than anything else. One of them is Shakespeare. It's about drama students. It's about Shakespeare. It's about stories. It's about how we make ourselves into stories. And it's about how drama and falling into character shapes and often ruins our lives. It's about tragedy. And obviously, most dark academia stories are about tragedy, but this is about tragedy, Shakespearean tragedy. It is a Shakespearean tragedy. I genuinely cannot capture in the words what is it about this book that makes it such a favourite of mine, except that it just is. Last time I spoke of this, I said I want to make a proper video about this book and just this book. I really need to do that. I need to reread it. I want to write an essay about this book. But I can't say nothing more about this book except I just love it the moon and back. It's like with Lawrence of Arabia. I cannot tell you what is it about that film that makes it my favourite film. I can't. The same with this one. But if I really looked at it and analysed it and really thought it over properly with time, I definitely could tell you the reason. Which is why I need to write the essay, and we're going to jump to my 4th favourite story of all time. They Need by Virgil. Yes! The epic. I still remember, I read this once, I need to reread it. I read this once and it was only 2 years ago, and I was kind of like, I'll just get it over with. And I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm probably not gonna love it, but you know, I'm gonna appreciate it. And I started it like that. I was like, oh, this is fine enough. And then I think it was within the first 50 pages, maybe by book 5. This is absolutely incredible. And I think what made me do that, this is absolutely incredible. There was a paragraph or a chapter that just like, my heart, I felt it. I felt emotional. And for some reason, I think it's because I don't necessarily get emotional that easily, that when I do, it really, really leaves an impact on me. Virgil made me cry. You will notice this with a lot of my favourite books. And it's not because I cry all the time. It's because I don't cry all the time. Virgil's poetry just... It was poetic, mate. You know, it was great. I don't know. I don't really often like war epics and depiction of war, description of war in fiction especially. I like war films. I usually get bored with, you know, war scenes in fantasy novels and as such. Virgil made the war. Virgil made the violence, the horror of all that. He made it so humane and he made it matter. Obviously it matters always, but he made it matter on an individual level. He made us sympathise with both of the sides and root for no one. Root for the end of this horror. There's left such an impact on me. I just keep on thinking about it. I just keep on returning in my mind to the scenes in this book, to the paragraphs, to the Virgil was... I agree with Dante. Like, Virgil was a fucking poet. I love him so much. I dropped the book, and I think that, you know, that's as it always... Let's move on to my next book. This book, can I call it a book? It is a play, and it is not a Shakespeare play. I have read this several times. I mean, again, it's another book I think I read for the first time in 2023. 2023 was a great year. We're not even done with the books I've read for the first time in 2023. My fifth favourite story, which is a tragedy. All of these are tragedies. I just like pain. The book is The Duchess of Malfi by John Webster. Oh my god, okay, like, I was gonna say this should be higher. It shouldn't, because the last book is literally the Aeneid. But my top 5 favourite, like, this is why I can't just list 5. This play, I don't think any play will ever overtake this play. Even when I'm done with all of Shakespeare. Shakespeare might be, you know, the bard, but John Webster, he's a man to my heart. I likewise, it's, you know, no one can beat Shakespeare's poetry or whatever, but you can't beat John Webster's melodrama. And I live for melodrama. If you want the tea, read John Webster. And it's not just that it's like you're kicking your feet and also groaning at the tragedy of it. And also laughing because, like, he has great humour in here too, but he also has great lines. But it's not, you know, the masterful verse of Shakespeare. It is the pre-romantic, dark, gothic kind of I don't know what word I'm looking for, but you know, that it feels like a romantic era tale, but it's not. It's John Webster, and it also feels very Renaissance. So I'm just yapping. It has all the great things like murder, plotting, romance, betrayal, incest. You know, it's great. It's great. My top 6 and 7s, I literally just changed their places, so I don't know, but I just reread Candide or Optimism by Voltaire. Voltaire. I'm trying not to just talk about Voltaire, and more specifically about this book. So this follows Candide, who is a German, who goes on a bloody adventure. He experiences everything. You know, it's not a farce. It's really not a farce. So though you might read like one, but it's a satirical tale. And we follow Candide through all his misfortunes. It starts with him being kicked out of the castle he's living in because he makes advances, not unfounded advances, but advances to the duke's, the lord's daughter, and he has this philosopher Pangloss, I can't ever remember his name, who is kind of a representation for Leibniz, who was known for his theory might be the wrong word, but idea of the best of all possible worlds. We live in the best of all possible worlds. I'm even a philosophy student, so I should really be able to explain to you what he meant by that, but it's like, this is our world, so it is the best of possible worlds. That didn't explain nothing. It's fine, I'm getting tired. So he goes through all this horrible stuff basically, and you know, he's living kind of with Pangloss's idea in his mind. He's like, how can this be the best of all possible worlds? Because all these horrible things happen, but you know, Pangloss was Pangloss, so he must have been right. And then more horrible stuff happens, and more horrible stuff happens, and then at one point he finds this great place in South America, and he's like, maybe this is the best. This is the best place on earth, and this is, you know, why it's the best of possible worlds. You know, this is why everything is great, and you know, we just live in the wrong parts of it, etc. And then at one point, for example, near the end, he meets this other dude who's not a philosopher, but he's kind of like the mouthpiece of Voltaire in a sense, because, you know, Voltaire wrote this book because he hated that idea, and Voltaire is he's a diva, and I love that about him. And this is just me. I love every moment of it. It's very, you know, it's that very crude type of satire where it's like, it's fun and you're grinning, but at the same time it's horrible and it's god awful. And you know, someone would go, why is that even, that's not funny at all. And you're like, the point is not to be funny, but you know, we all have our different senses of humour, and I'm excusing myself for liking this book, but it's a bloody great book, and it's just brilliant. And you know, it has this, I don't know if you've had this idea, but it's like, it ends kind of with this known idea of, we must now like sow our garden. So it's also great in terms of, you know, knowing what that means. Cultivate is the word I was looking for, but we must now cultivate our garden. So like, I think everyone should read this, you know, to have the knowledge of, you know, what this book does. But you know, there's also, I know I've got a friend who's French. Is like, when I said this is one of my favorite books, and like, I love Voltaire, it's like, oh, Voltaire, because Voltaire kind of standardized French language. This has nothing to do with that. We're gonna move on because I'm not even yapping about this book. Why do I love this book? Because it is philosophically great. This is the type of intellectual stuff that I love, which is it is funny, and it's crude, and it's just taking the piss. I did indeed run out of battery. That is not a big surprise, I would say. My book number 7 or 6 We don't know, but it's 7 today. When I read this book, I went, and this was 4 years ago, I'd say. I think that is my favourite book of all time. I think that's it. I think I found her. It's now number 7, so what am I even saying? But to be fair, I said the same thing after watching Poor Things in cinemas. And then I rewatched it this month actually, and I went, it is one of my favourite books, films, but I don't know if it's the one. It should be. It might need be. It might still be. So I don't know if this is really my favourite book of all time that I just need to reread, or if it's one of those cases where I go, okay, that's my favourite thing ever. That's me. That's me in a book. I should name the book. The book is The Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. It is great. It is beautiful. It is stellar. When I read this, I was like, oh yeah, I am understood. My taste in literature is understood. This is obviously about Louis. He might be a plantation owner. He's an upper class person in the 18th century American South, and he meets a vampire at the start, and he's turned into a vampire himself. And the rest of the book is his melancholic philosophical woes, and it's just pages about that. Yeah, and I would say it's called The Interview with the Vampire because the book is formatted as an interview. He tells his life story, and it's set like the framing device is set in the 80s. But it's just, I don't have to say anything else because that's why I love it. It's the philosophical pondering. It's his existential crisis about being a vampire and about religion and humanity and eternity and death and morality and mortality or immortality. And that's why I loved it. And I think it probably should be higher, but I can't put it higher because I can't bloody finish my reread of this book. You already can see what I love. You can see why I study philosophy. Like, what more is there to say? Let's move on to my book number 8, which is it is a book, but it is a book series, kinda. Number 8 is either, because I don't know which one I mean, and I don't know which one I meant, and I don't know which one I mean. But it is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. I love this. This and If You Were a Vampire, If You Were Villains are my most reread books. I think this might still triumph because it's a quick read and it's fun. You can see the two things I love. I love either it's like brooding tragedy or it's a romp. It's satirical. It's it's witty. It's smart, and it's also always just like existential and thinking these philosophical topics like this does. I can't look at the number 42 the same. I just can't. To me, 42 is it's life, it makes me always think about life, and it's just, this is fun. It's fun, but it's not mindless fun, and that's what I love about books like this and Candide. But what I was saying is, I don't know if I kind of want to say the series because I've got these books here. I do, so I would count the second book, The Restaurant at the Theatre Bus, and the third book, Life, Theatre Bus and Everything, on this, not maybe not quite on the same level. Like this is here, Restaurant is here, and Universe is here, but they're all like 5-star reads. The fourth book is good. It's not great. It's not great, but it's good. It's good. I like it. The fifth book, I don't like it. No one likes it. I mean, some people probably like it, but it's not good. It ruins this. I'm not going to talk about that. So my point is, it's not in the entire series, but it's like these three books are my number 8, and it's just it's fun. It's fun, Earth gets destroyed, and Arthur ends up going on an adventure in space, but he's just a normal English bloke who just wants his cup of tea, He doesn't care about the aliens. But then we also got my favourite character, who's Zaphod Beeblebrox. He's president of the galaxy. He doesn't really care about the galaxy. Nah, he doesn't even really know why he's president, but he's a president. I'm just going to move on because I said we're going to go through this faster. My 9th book is a book I've already mentioned during this video. And it's a book that I'm currently rereading, finally. And that is Dante's Inferno. I want to actually read the entire trilogy comedy, the Divine Comedy. I've only read the Inferno. I bought this book before I've really got back into reading. I got back into reading actually the same month that I bought this book, I'm pretty sure. But I didn't read this book then. I read this in January 2020. But this was like when I was quite new to getting back into reading, and I wasn't reading that many classics at that point yet. And I read this and I was like, that was incredible. That was just brilliant. And I read this in like a couple of days because I couldn't stop reading. And I've always loved Middle Ages and all that. And I've always heard about this book and I was captivated by this cover, but I wasn't expecting it to be so much fun. And obviously, like, it's deep and the poetry is great. The actual story and the themes and, the dissection of Christianity and morality and humanity, all that is great, but it's also an adventure and it's fun. Maybe fun is the wrong word, but you could say the same with Candide. Maybe fun is the wrong word, but it is fun. Maybe my idea of fun is a bit, it's a problematic notion, but it's fun. And I think everyone should read this. I think much more people could enjoy this than think they could. That was not a coherent sentence. A lot of people who might not think they would enjoy this could enjoy this, is what I'm going for. Even if you're not into classics, I think this is a book to pick up. And it's like, even if you don't love it, like I said before, I think you still gain a lot, and not just like in terms of thinking and all that, but you can see, how this has influenced fiction still and life still, not just, literature, but in general. It's one of those books that has had a massive impact, and it impacts us constantly, and it's even impacted our view of Christianity and all that. Can you see that I think kind of my thinking, like the way I view world and literature is kind of this web of connection. That is what I love, but that's sort of just what I think. So I'm always like, you can see how it's influenced, you can see that, but I think in these lines and structures, and I think that's part of the reason why I love so many of these influential works. It's not just that, but there's an element to that. Are we much higher than we were before? We've got our 10th book, and this is a beast. We started with a beast, we are gonna end with a beast. This is a fun beast. Again, 2 categories of books, but also kind of the same category of books. What I was gonna say is, I think you can see that you could define my taste in 5 words: fun, epic, adventure, existential, tragedy. But the book is a book that has defined my life and my tastes and just my loves way longer than, this book, like in this format, has been in my life. I only read, the actual work 2 years ago, but it's always been a part of my life. And that book is The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. This is just, you know the story, but I don't think you actually know the story, because I was surprised by the story, not gonna lie. I was surprised. I was like, I know what it's about. It's about D'Artagnan. Comes to Paris to join the Musketeers. His father is killed. And then there was the Queen and all the shenanigans with Buckingham, and the Musketeers have to save the day. But there's also so much more, and there was especially the second half, I was like, what are these plot points that I've never encountered or can't remember? But just, this is fun, like what I said about smart. I love it when you're being smart with me. Like, people who complain about people who are like being smart, I'm like, piss off, this is my boy. Like, these are the types of people I think I would love to just hang out with. I think I would have enjoyed Alexandre Dumas' company a lot because of the way he wrote. It's almost absurd, and you're just like grinning whilst you're reading it. And some people might go, that's absurd, that's stupid, that's just stupid. I was like, are you any fun? Are you any fun? Those were indeed my top 10 books as of June 2025. I'm gonna go through my top 10 authors right now, but I'm gonna do that much faster. Actually, I now have to make a reference to that because If you've seen my previous list, you might be like, Annie, when you last made the video, you had as your number one a book series that you said is going to be your number one for the rest of your life. Where is it? It's not here. It might still be. You know, it might still be. It might still be my favourite book series of all time. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not feel comfortable including it here. And I'm not going to feel comfortable talking about or including this author in my list of authors. They are like disqualified. That does not make them not my favourite in terms of the books they've produced. I just at the minute don't feel comfortable talking about this person being Neil Gaiman. I just don't feel comfortable, you know, praising him or his works at the minute. Well, I say at the minute as in like with the given context with what was revealed last year and all that. I just don't feel comfortable talking about. It's like, it's the same with like, I still love Harry Potter. Like Harry Potter still means a lot to me. In terms of, you know, having growing up with that. When I'm going to be talking about my favourite books or my favourite series, I'm never going to be talking about Harry Potter because I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I don't feel comfortable being like, okay, you should, because it's almost like saying you should read this, even if it's not. It doesn't change, you know, how I feel about it, or okay, to a degree it does, but it doesn't like take away the love that I've had for a piece of art. But I can choose whom I spend time talking about and praising, and I've chosen not to talk about Neil Gaiman and his works. I was just, when I started making the list, I was like, okay, Neil Gaiman is disqualified. If you want to like hear my old opinions or, you know, what I have to say, you can do that. You can watch those videos, obviously with the caveat of I wouldn't, even if I agree with what I said, I don't know, because I've not seen those videos, I don't want to be repeating them. And I think we all need to, you know, look at things with context. And I've been yapping about, you know, ethics and all that for way too long. Let's talk about the actual authors that I've put on this list. As my number one, I don't know if I can do this. Can I put him here? This feels a bit wrong because I've not read so much by him. And like, do I even love everything? I don't know. But it feels right because, you know, I don't know. It's just, it feels right. It feels right. Of course, I'm talking about my man. Who's my man on this planet Earth? My man is Voltaire. It's been a joke. It's been an honest joke. I've played Voltaire in a play. You know, I've answered that my favourite philosopher is Voltaire. Even though I don't even do, like, this is not my type of philosophy. But I just love him. He's my man. I think we would have been good buddies. Or maybe we wouldn't have. But I still love him. What even is like, this is my list. If I say Voltaire is my favourite author, he's my favourite author. The next one is a person who I have talked about already. Yeah, I didn't even explain. I don't have to explain why Voltaire is my favourite. I think I said enough. But my number two is Fredrik Backman. These are the only ones I own physically, though I have read more of his works. He's my highest rated author. I said most when I talked about Bear Time, but he writes about humanity in such an honest way, and it's just he's a really great contemporary author. But more than that, he can be funny, and we've already talked about how much humor means to me. He just gets me and he gets to me. I just don't know if I can still classify him as my favourite author. Now with Voltaire is all fun and games. With Fredrik Backman, I'm like, I need to read every single piece of fiction you have written. I don't know, is that fair? Probably not, but this is my list. Third, because we said, I think this is one of the reasons why I said authors and poets, because I've not read much from this, but he is my favourite poet. It is a very controversial pick, but it's, you know, I live on the edge. My favourite poet is Allen Ginsberg. I know. But this man, he writes poetry that just resonates with me. I didn't think I was going to be this into 20th century literature and poetry, but I really am. And that, you know, that only occurred when I was introduced to American fiction, which is weird. I don't prefer American literature in most scenarios, but for some reason, 20th century, especially like Beat Generation stuff, that context, the more experimental, postmodern, or they're not really necessarily postmodern, but like more experimental, postmodern trailblazers of American fiction. It just worked with me, but no one works with me quite like Allen Ginsberg. Lysergic Acid might indeed be my favorite poem of all time. But there's something about the way he describes this contemporary world or semi-contemporary world, advanced world we have gotten to, where, you know, art isn't the same as it used to be. Art isn't the same it was in his time, but art is definitely not the same than it was in 600 years ago, or it was 100 years ago. 100 is actually quite recent. 200 years ago. I love Ginsberg. If you don't. I know. As much as I said, like, okay, because it's Shakespeare, I love If We Were Villains. Shakespeare is not my favourite playwright. You might guess who is. It is indeed John Webster. I know. I read 3 plays by him. And this man he writes for me. He writes for me. That's all that can be said. I vibe with the melodrama. I vibe with his vibes. We vibe. That's all I need to say. I've loved every single one of his plays that I've read. Obviously, The Duchess of Malfi is my favourite, but The White Devil, fantastic. The Devil's Law Case, I think this is the 3rd one. You know, it's not a 5 out of 5, but it's just so much fun. Just a blast. Just a blast, but like a tragic blast. I love tragic comedy. I love tragic comedy so much, and he writes such great tragic comedies. I wish he had as many works as Shakespeare. I know, I keep mentioning people who have written very little, relatively speaking, or from whom I've read very little. I've read, I think, all this person has written. But regardless, my 5th favourite author is Virgil, a poet. He's a poet. Should he belong here? Because I didn't actually like the pastoral poems or the No, I actually did like the eclogue. I didn't like the Georgics. No, which way around? Yeah, sorry. No. I love the eclogue. I did not love the Georgics, except some pieces, like the one where he retells the myth of Orpheus. But his poetry is just one that, like I said, resonated with me. I think I don't know what to say anymore. I'm giving you a list, but like, am I giving any coherence? No, I say words. My words are Virgil wrote really well. The reason is because like I've already talked about these people when I talked about their books. I think that says it all. My top 6th favourite author or a poet, my top 3rd favourite poet, if we want to talk about that, is a person who's one of my men. I have a list of my men, and he's included. He's one of my main men, and that is Lord Byron. And again, we count him into this category of he's invited for champagne and tea, and we would share tea. We would get along. I don't know what that says about me. I don't know what this entire list says about me, but I love Lord Byron, and his poetry is phenomenal. One of also people who have written one of my favourite poems, When We Two Parted. I know it's a very basic poem, but I read that years ago when I was a kid, and this made me go, oh my god, this is a great poem. I need to read more of romantics. I need to read more of this man. And yeah, that's how we got here. And that's how we get to my number 7. Today, the 7th is a person who wrote 2 books, and I read both of them last year, and they were phenomenal. They were brilliant. Not top 10 grade, but like top 25 grade books. And that is Nella Larsen, who wrote Quicksand and Passing. 2 incredible works of art. These are both short books, like they're both included in this little book. You can read them. And she's just, I breezed through them. Like the character study in this works, phenomenal, but also entertaining. You can have depth and entertain. I think that is my message to all authors out there. At number 8, we have the author that seems like should have already been mentioned. And maybe after I'm done with the chronological read-through that I started last month, maybe they will be higher. Though I absolutely love and adore some books by them, I also don't love all of them. And some I don't really like. This person is obviously the many times mentioned William Shakespeare. The Bard. I love William Shakespeare. I just don't love all of William Shakespeare. I think I'm not gonna spend time talking about William Shakespeare. He's William Shakespeare. He's William Shakespeare. Like I said, he's the master of verse. in terms of plays, like within play. He's the playwright, but he's the one who writes the best dialogue. I don't know why I love William Shakespeare. What does anyone? Why does anyone? There are a million reasons, and maybe one day I'll make a video of this is why I love Shakespeare. But that will be after I'm done with my read through. Well, my favourite play by him that I've read is Julius Caesar. That's just, I love the tragedy. We already know it. I love the tragedy, and this one has just such tragedy. Talking about tragedy, Romeo and Juliet. It is, you know, tragic. The tragic romance. Of course I love it. His words are great. I just don't have the passion for his works quite like I do for Webster's melodrama. I adore and appreciate Shakespeare immensely, but I don't have the passion for his individual works. Why am I excusing having William Shakespeare in my top 10? I don't know. We're just going to move on to my number 8, and that is Ibiza Boy. I have read almost all of her works, but I have basically adored everything. She is my favourite young adult author, and I don't really read, or I'm not really interested much in young adult anymore. There are a few authors from whom I will also read young adult works, and she's one of those authors that I will automatically read works by her. I don't actually even know what is my favourite work by her, but I think it must be American Street, because that one has just stuck with me. But she writes about teenage experience and about, you know, all these, I think the themes that are most relevant to the teenage experience, like belonging and family, and, you know, it's growing up and growing into yourself and not knowing where you belong or how you are, who you should be and who you should follow, and etc. I think she writes about them not like anyone else that I've read, and with such beauty. Like her prose, her writing itself is so beautiful, and it's just so profound and so touching, and my heart bleeds, but she also heals it. My final favourite author is my favourite essayist that I have read, and that is Audre Lorde. I've still not finished neither of these collections. I've read obviously essays from both of them and poetry from the other, and she's great. She was great. She was brilliant. I think what really is a great example of why she's my favourite essayist is not her best essays and most known essays like The Master's Tools Will Not Dismantle the Master's House. Is that like the entire title? I always butcher it. Obviously that is The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House. Obviously that's a very exceptional essay, and her best essays are her best essays for a reason. But it is the essays that, you know, shouldn't work as well as they do, that shouldn't have made me as invested and as emotional as they did, are an example of why she's as stellar as she is. And I think one that obviously comes to my mind is the first essay that starts this, which is, well, it's not an essay, it's notes from a trip to Russia. Parts of it has stuck with me, and that's the same with all of the writings that she's done, and her poetry also. It's not as though she's my favourite poet, but her poetry carries on that same thematic and weighty weight. That was not what I was meant to say. I was supposed to say emotional weight that her essays do, and that is why she's here. I've not read that many essayists, so maybe someone will overtake her, but she will always have a place in my heart, and I really always appreciate her work. Like the work of all these authors, and now I have completed the list of my favourite books or stories and my favourite writers as of 2025, as of June 2025, and I will come back to redo this list, and I think this is the best kind of format, not whatever I did last time, but that was the first try. It's the top 10s. That is better. That is better, because that allows for some flexibility in the future. And I really think especially my top authors list will change in the future, because there's so many authors whom I'm like, I know I will love you and I know you will be a favourite. Unfortunately, I have only read a single book by you, so you can't be here. That was my one rule. Obviously, I can't include an author from whom I've only read one work or like one series even. And I'm hoping for really good reads in the future to come. I think I will make a video about my reads so far this year, because I've read a decent amount, especially recently. I've tried to balance reading and school, like reading for myself and not just for school, better this year than I did last year. And I've read some very solid books though, not top 10 favourites, certainly still 5-star reads. So if you want to be hearing about those, wait for the time to come. Please do stick around. I'll try to be back every week, whichever date this video comes out on, that date. But it was fun to be back here and yapping about books. Tell me how I did. Rather, no, don't tell me. I don't want feedback. I'm here to just yap about books. Tell me what is your favourite author and favourite book. But for now, I'll say kaboom.
I did not realise I fucking put the books here. I found them. Jesus Christ, that was a bad idea.